All right, everybody, Logan here. This is my COVID election and stimulus update for Tuesday, November 3rd. Yes, it is election day. Got a lot of election stuff to cover today. Also going to talk about stimulus, what Nancy Pelosi said yesterday in various interviews. But let's start with COVID just really quickly here. Head over to the spreadsheet. Yesterday, new U.S. cases, 93,581 according to the New York Times. New deaths, 540 again according to the New York Times. Dr. Deborah Birx, in an internal White House memo yesterday, said that we are entering the most concerning and deadly phase of this pandemic, leading to increasing mortality. Who is Deborah Birx? If you don't know, she is the coordinator of the White House coronavirus task force. Okay, so in previous press conferences, you would see Trump, you would see Dr. Fauci, you would see Deborah Birx. She hasn't been as public a figure lately for various reasons, but she did send out this memo yesterday that was obtained by the Washington Post. She said, it's not about lockdowns. It hasn't been about lockdowns since March or April. It's been about an aggressive, balanced approach that is not being implemented. Birx claims that testing is flat or declining in areas where cases are rising. This is in contrast to claims by many of the Trump administration that the only reason we're seeing more cases is because we're testing more. Birx's memo is contradicting this. Dr. Birx claims that we will see more than 100,000 new cases a day this week. All right, now on to the election. Today is election day, people. Please vote if you have not done already. Nearly 100 million people have already voted before today. I saw some of you in the comments say you've already voted. Bravo to you. I did a poll this morning. Let's refresh it here. I did a poll this morning. It's election day. Have you voted yet? 65% of you said yes. 15% said no, but I will today. So that's about 80% of you or so who have said that you have voted or you will vote today. But then there's this sizable minority of you, 21%, who said you haven't voted yet. About 20% there. So I also asked a question below. Why don't you intend to vote if you don't? Remember that state and local elections are super important, right? Very important, right, to where you live. Even if you don't like Trump or Biden or any of the other candidates on the ballot, still consider voting for state and local officials. Another thing I want to mention, people, is that the Senate races are huge. I'm going to talk about Senate races that I'm keeping an eye on today, but Senate races are huge, especially for stimulus. You know how much we've talked about the Senate, right, and what would fly there with respect to stimulus or not. The Senate is currently 53-45-2. 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats, 2 independents who tend to vote with the Democrats, right? So essentially 53-47. If Biden wins the presidency, okay, the Democrats only need a net gain of 3 to control the Senate. Since in that case, it would be 50-50, right? Net gain of 3 for the Democrats would mean Republicans go from 53 to 50. Democrats and independents who tend to vote with Democrats go from 47 to 50, right? So that's 50-50. But in this scenario, Kamala Harris, who would be the vice president, would be the president of the Senate, and she would cast the tie-breaking vote in the case there is a 50-50 vote straight along party lines. If Trump is reelected, however, Dems will need a net gain of 4 senators to control the Senate, okay, to go from 47 to 51, right? Non-Republicans will need a majority. So what Senate races am I watching today? I'm watching Arizona with the incumbent Republican Martha McSally versus Mark Kelly. Colorado, the incumbent Republican Cory Gardner, right, who is a Republican but has distanced himself from Trump in some respects, versus the former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. Okay, so this is a contentious race, right? Because obviously the governor of the state is a Democrat. The former governor of the state, his name is out there, right? People are familiar with him. North Carolina, the incumbent Tom Tillis versus Cal Cunningham. Cal Cunningham, the Democrat challenger, did have a recent kind of affair scandal. Okay, I'm not going to say too much here on the channel because I don't want YouTube to demonetize it or something, but you can look into that if you want to. In Maine, we know Susan Collins, right, who is a Republican. She caught heat for Kavanaugh, right, because she voted in favor of Kavanaugh's confirmation, which many undecided voters in her state opposed. She is being challenged by the Maine Speaker of the House, Sarah Gideon. Also contentious Senate races in Iowa and Georgia. All right, now let's talk about the blue mirage and the red mirage. So we know that this year, due to COVID-19, there have been huge mail-in ballot and early voting numbers. Thing is, right, more Democrats than Republicans have voted by mail. Okay. So what does that mean? That means depending on the state and how they process ballots, we could see, depending on the state, especially in the swing states, either a blue mirage, which means because those states count their mail-in ballots before Election Day, or they start counting them before Election Day, right? There could look like an early lead for Biden, right? Because he would lead in those mail-in ballots, which are mostly Democratic. But then as votes pour in on Election Day in person, which tend to be Trump voters, right? Then, you know, that early Biden lead could have just been a mirage, hence a blue mirage, okay? It's different in these states where mail-in ballots are not processed until Election Day. They can't start processing mail-in ballots until Election Day. Here we could see a red mirage. These are states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Why? Because we could see precincts reporting, okay, the vote in person tallies on Election Day, maybe the day after, right? Which would be a lot of Republicans who wanted to vote in person and not vote by mail, right? So that could be a red mirage, because then as these mail-in ballots roll in, they could swing it more Democratic and in terms of Biden's favor. In terms of what Trump and Biden are up to right now, Trump and Biden have already voted. Okay, they voted early this morning. No big photo op there. That attempt by Texas Republicans to throw out 127,000 drive-through ballots, that lawsuit was rejected by a federal judge, so those votes will count. Biden began Election Day in Delaware, visiting the graves of his first wife, daughter, and son. He will spend the rest of the day in Pennsylvania, which is turning out to be quite the battleground state. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany was on Fox this morning. She said, "Under every circumstance, our campaign believes that tonight will be a landslide." Trump on Fox and Friends this morning said he will declare victory only when there's victory. There's no reason to play games. Trump said he thinks he has a very solid chance of winning, says his team thinks they're winning in Texas, Florida, Alabama, North Carolina, and doing very well in Pennsylvania. Trump will spend the day at the White House making a big series of phone calls today to some people that he says have been very important and loyal to him. If you saw him on Fox this morning, you know, he kind of criticized Fox News. He said that he thinks the network has changed a lot and has had Democrats on more than Republicans. I'm not sure about that claim. All right, now let's talk stimulus. Really, the only real stimulus updates we have are some things that Nancy Pelosi said in a couple interviews yesterday. The first one, which I think is the more significant one, is she was on NPR, All Things Considered, yesterday, talking to Ari Shapiro. In that interview, she basically praised the HEROES Act and blamed the White House and McConnell for lack of stimulus. So, and there's one very interesting thing she said here. She basically claimed that if Mitch McConnell had not said that he wants to pause, right, and if the Senate had passed the HEROES Act back in May when the House passed it, Pelosi claims that 150,000 of the 220,000 Americans who have died from COVID-19 probably would not have to die if the Senate had just taken action when we passed the bill. She's essentially saying, Mitch, the blood of these Americans is on your hands. That's a very strong statement, to say the least. And I'll let you go at it in the comments to see, to express your opinions on that. Ari Shapiro then asked Pelosi about the election, right? Pointed out that, well, the election could be hotly contested, right? Very divisive, especially with the whole red mirage, blue mirage issues that I brought up earlier. So Shapiro asked Pelosi, hey, are you confident in the resilience of our democratic system to handle a contested election if it comes to that? And then Speaker Pelosi kind of puts on her troll hat here. She said, our country is a great country. We're even great enough to survive one term of Donald Trump. That's pretty trolly right there. She said 2 terms would be such a serious setback that I worry for our country. Okay. Then she talks about the election. In her other interview yesterday, which was on MSNBC, she was talking about the election and saying that she's confident in a Democratic victory. She said that Election Day is going to be a great day for our country. Okay. We know that Pelosi envisions a huge Democratic victory today. And she envisions a world in which early 2021 Democrats will be able to pass a massive stimulus relief bill. However, she's still posturing herself as somebody who thinks that something can get done during the lame duck session. So that's kind of conflicting messages to me, right? But that's Pelosi's posturing right now. All right, everybody, that is my COVID election and stimulus update for today. If you like this video, Give it a big old thumbs up down there. But more importantly, more than that thumbs up, I would love on this video, more than that like, I want you to vote today. So please, if you haven't voted yet and you're not planning on it, please reconsider. And those of you who are intending to vote today, please do not put it off. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.